What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to The Drop, which is a weekly series I do right here on the YouTube channel every single Monday, where I pretty much go through all the top video games coming out this week so that you guys know what new games are coming out just in case you do want to pick up something new. And unlike the rest of the season, since I suppose around August, there aren't that many major releases coming out this week. In fact, there's only one big one, and it's already a remaster. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the light week. So, kicking things off, we have Darksiders Remastered Edition coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Deceived by the forces of evil into prematurely bringing about the end of the world, War, the first horseman of the apocalypse, stands accused of breaking the sacred law by inciting a war between heaven and hell. In the slaughter that ensued, the demonic forces defeated the heavenly host and laid claim to the earth. Brought before the sacred charred council, War is indicted for his crimes and stripped of his powers. Dishonored and facing his own death, War is given the opportunity to return to earth to search for the truth and punish those responsible. Hunted by a vengeful group of angels, War must take on the forces of hell, forge uneasy alliances with the very demons he hunts, and journey across ravaged remains of earth on his quest for vengeance and vindication. Alright, so this is kind of out of order. They released Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition. What is with these people and these puns? But this game came out in 2015, so this is pretty much the follow-up remaster, which is the first game that came before the second remaster that happened in 2015. I don't really get it either. Now, I will say this is a franchise I have not had the pleasure of jumping into, but I do plan on going back and fixing that pretty much in that time between January and March, where there aren't many games coming out, and it pretty much gives us all a chance to go back and play some of the games we might have missed. I would love to go back and play Darksiders and Darksiders 2 on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. I don't know, it just seems to lend itself to a console experience in my mind. But that being said, looking at some gameplay, the combat looks very similar to God of War, and I would say, considering the heaven and the hell and the angels and the demons, if you're a fan of God of War, you probably are going to like Darksiders and Darksiders 2. This week, Darksiders Remastered Edition. Now, after I looked at the comparison video, I will say this one doesn't show that many signs of improvement. The textures are marginally better, but overall, the graphics have pretty much stayed the same to kind of preserve the aesthetic of the game, or perhaps because there wasn't much work done to it. However you want to break it down, the game looks pretty much the same. That being said, it is supporting PlayStation Pro features, meaning it will run better on the PlayStation 4 Pro. That being said, it'll probably definitely run fine on the PlayStation 4, but it's cool to see them supporting a 4K output, even though the graphics themselves aren't that great. It's kind of a take it or leave it thing. It doesn't look that great, but it still looks great considering it looks fine. You know what I mean? Next up, we've got Stealth Incorporated, a Clone in the Dark Ultimate Edition coming to the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation Vita. Now, before you dig into the comments and say, hey, this game came out a couple of years ago, I am aware of that, and this is actually coming out in a physical form this week through a limited run release. But pretty much, Stealth Incorporated is a fast-paced stealth platformer featuring brutal hazards, ruthless enemies, fiendish puzzles, and red pixels galore. Jump, sneak, be chunked through 120 unique levels. This Ultimate Edition of the game includes the 80 levels from the original game and 40 additional levels from the Teleporter Chambers and the Lost Clones expansions. Now, like I mentioned, this is being put out by Limited Run Games, and if you aren't familiar with them, they pretty much take digital titles that are kind of lesser known but still are notorious in the gaming community and putting them into a physical format so that people can collect them, and they do only make a few of them, meaning that they are very scarce and therefore very collectible, making the value go up and more people want to check out the game, whether it be digitally on the store or try and get a physical copy through Limited Run. So this is actually one that I have had the chance to play, and I will say that I love Stealth Incorporated and Stealth Incorporated 2. I will say they are very, very good puzzler games, and I had my experience on the PlayStation Vita, which is great for killing just a couple of minutes here and there whenever you do have some spare time, so I would definitely recommend it there, and I'm sure that the experience is just as good on the PlayStation 4. That being said, if you want the physical release of this game from Limited Run that is coming out this week, you need to be on top of it, because this game is coming out on Black Friday, and there are 2 different waves of the game going out, so head over there to the Limited Run Games website, which I will link down below, and figure out when you are going to be able to buy it, because if my inclination is correct, these things are going to be gone like hotcakes. Now last but not least, we have Amnesia Collection on the PlayStation 4. The cult classic Amnesia horror series is finally available for the PlayStation 4. This collection contains all 3 games, The Dark Descent, Justine, and A Machine for Pigs. Is that really the best you could do with a description? Now, whenever I think about Amnesia, I definitely think about all those famous YouTubers that weren't so famous back then playing through Amnesia and getting the shit scared out of them, because those were some very, very good times. And I feel like it's those experiences that pretty much laid the foundation for games like Outlast, Outlast 2, and Soma to kind of come into the horror genre and start scaring us all to death. And it's a good thing, definitely. Ultimately, if you enjoy that tense, iconic horror experience that you get whenever you play, I would say, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, the demo that's out if you watch some gameplay of that from E3. If you're a fan of the playable trailer that Hideo Kojima worked on a couple of years ago, like I mentioned, Outlast and Soma, if you like that kind of scary experience, you are going to enjoy Amnesia Collection because, in my opinion, it pretty much laid the foundation for the modern, iconic horror game as we know it. Now that being said, I can't help but be disappointed about the fact that the game isn't coming out on the Xbox One, but the developers did say they would love to bring it to that platform at some point in the future. That being said, they were just used to the way you develop a game for the PlayStation 4 because the team had just worked on Soma, a game in very similar nature that I have been mentioning. So that was a pretty easy way to bring Amnesia to the modern generation of consoles and make the first 2 parts of that game, I believe it was The Dark Descent and Justine, run at 60 frames per second, and unfortunately A Machine for Pigs is running at 30 frames per second, but still that's pretty good, and the games do look great from the gameplay that I've seen on the PlayStation 4. So there you guys have it. That about wraps it up. Like I said, there are just a couple of games coming out this week, I suppose, since it is Thanksgiving week. But if you enjoyed this video, please drop it a like down below and share it on your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, social media of your choice, whatever you might tend to communicate with your friends on, and help spread my channel and get the channel growing, because it has been growing incredibly lately. And of course, if you happen to be new here, please head over there and check out some of my other content, because I do upload new videos like 3 or 4 days a week depending on the week. So there's always something new right here on the channel when you drop by to watch some videos. But as for right now, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this particular video. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.